Three. Welcome to Wednesday's story. So, we have just Joe's reopened the park, and there's been a massive argument because Violetta has plotted something nasty, and she's made the bouncy castle burst, and everything's gone wrong. It's a nightmare. So everyone started to blame Joe. So we're just going to carry on from where we left off. "Oh, Prime Minister," the woman in black yelled. "Smile, please, for your number one fan." Joe automatically turned around and gave the best grin he could muster. "I'm sorry, I don't have time for any more pictures. I need to sort this mess out." "I think it's time to leave," Jenkins said, helping Joe to his feet. "You better let your mother and me deal with this. There are too many press people here, and we don't want your picture all over the papers." Violetta slipped her camera back into her bag and ran through the trees towards the fence. She squeezed her bony body through the gap and out into the street. Pulling down her hood, she grabbed her phone from her bag and began to dial. "Hi, it's me. I have a picture you might be interested in." The Prime Minister grinning like a fool in the middle of a disaster that he is responsible for. So this is chapter 14 and it's called Panic on the Streets of London. Joe was sitting up in bed in his postman pat pyjamas, surrounded by the morning's newspapers. "Have you seen the news?" Jenkins asked, poking his head around the door. "Ah, you have." "Parkageddon, PM left deflated. Joe solo after big park blow show. Elvis found on moon." These headlines are just awful, and they have all a picture of me smiling with my thumbs up. All of them. Someone asked me for my picture. They said, "Smile," and I just thought it was the right thing to do. "I know, sir. It seems as though it was taken by someone at the opening. They must have sold it to the papers." "AJ's downstairs and he wants to know if you're all right." Joe got out of bed mournfully and slid down the fireman's pole he'd installed himself from his bedroom to the corridor below. "Whoa, Joe, you look seriously down. Are you going to get dressed and wear those postman pat pyjamas all day?" AJ asked, looking concerned. "Maybe if I'd taken this job more seriously, it wouldn't have come to this." "Wait a minute, Joe. Having fun doesn't make a bouncy castle explode, right?" An office door off the corridor opened, and a woman slid out of an office chair. Most bouncy castle accidents are due to a sudden loss of pressure, from a pinprick, for example. With that, the worker disappeared again. "See," AJ said, "it wasn't your fault." Well, there's a terrible sight." Violetta came stalking down the corridor towards Joe, looking happier than Joe had ever seen her. "How was the opening?" "Oh, leave me alone. You know exactly how it went. You must have seen the papers." "Don't you worry. I'll rebuild the park bigger and better next time." Joe surprised himself by shouting at Violetta. "Well, if it isn't our Prime Minister being all grumpy, where's the laughter and smiles gone, Joe? Finding it a bit tough, are we? This is worth a picture." Violetta pulled out her phone and was about to click the button. "Leave me alone," Joe snapped, and turned to walk away. "Oh, go on, smile, please. It's for your number one fan." Violetta laughed. Joe stopped still. "It was you! You took that picture of me and sent it to the papers." "Well done, Blancmange Brain," Violetta said nonchalantly. "It was such a good picture I couldn't resist sending it to all the papers. But it makes me look bad, like I was laughing at other people's misfortune. I wasn't doing that. You know I wasn't." "Save the excuses. A picture paints 1,000 words, remember?" Violetta said, holding the photo of Joe right up to his face. "The park's closed now, and it's going to stay closed. I don't think it will ever open again after what happened. Your mother must be so proud." You're, Joe screamed. "I'm what?" "You're fired." Violetta stared at Joe, and slowly a smile spread across her face. "Thank you," she said, and walked off, chuckling to herself. "What?" Joe was confused. "Jenkins, what does she mean by thank you?" "I don't know, sir. I just don't know." Joe spent the rest of the morning in a daze, replaying everything over and over in his head. He had just wanted to do the right thing by his mum, and now look what happened. And what had Violetta meant when she said thank you? Joe was supposed to be signing a new law to make sweets one of your 5 a day, but he just couldn't concentrate. He looked up, startled, as Jenkins burst in, switching the TV on and grabbing the remote. "Sir, you need to see this," he said urgently. "You join us here in central London for some huge news. Violetta Crump, the Deputy Prime Minister, has been fired." She's about to make a statement. The camera cut to Violetta standing in front of number 10. The Prime Minister, if such a grand word can be used for such a small child, took it upon himself to force enjoyment on everyone in this country. I begged him not to force everyone to have fun, but instead of listening to me, he fired me. That's the kind of Prime Minister we have. One who only thinks about himself and no one else. Yesterday, we saw the awful consequences of that decision. Yesterday, we saw the true cost of fun, misery for men, women, and children. People need order in their life. They need rules. They need to be told what to do. What we don't need is a 4-foot clown in charge. "Hey, I'm 4'6", Joe yelled at the TV. "Ask yourself what kind of country you want. One where a boy, that's right, a boy, tells you what to do? We are a joke. We've all seen the YouTube clips of bouncy castles bursting, people getting stuck in slides, children hurt by flying hot dogs. We don't have a leader, we have an entertainer. What next? What if the world is on the brink of another crisis? Is Joe going to make some balloon animals? Try a spot of juggling? Well, I for one am not laughing, and neither is Mr. Johnson." A middle-aged man moved towards the microphone, looking miserable and cross. Mr. Johnson is a taxi driver, an ordinary member of the public, forced to dress up in fancy dress by a Prime Minister for his entertainment. "Mr. Johnson, if you would like to tell the public how it is." "I was just trying to earn a living until Joe Perkins came along. Suddenly, that's not enough. Now I'm being told to dress up to keep my customers entertained. Well, it turns out I'm allergic to synthetic fibres, the sort that you get in fancy dress costumes. And I was off work for a week. I mean, you should see the rash on my..." "Thank you, Mr. Johnson." Violetta grabbed the microphone back. "It's all up one side of my bottom, bright red like a huge radish." Mr. Johnson leant into the microphone to finish what he was saying. "We don't need to put you through any more indignity," Violetta shouted over him. "Dignity? That went a long time ago. What won't go is the bleeding rash. I mean, who knew a tutu could do that much damage to a man's behind? Can show you if you like." To everyone's horror, the taxi driver began to undo the trousers. "No!" Violetta yelled before wrestling Mr. Johnson off screen. "Also meet Mrs. Gray," Violetta said, returning and beckoning a lady forward from the crowd. "Mrs. Gray had a terrible experience. Isn't that right, dear? I read in the papers that cats should have to wear hats, so I decided that little Billy should wear a top and a hat, and now I can't get it off." Mrs. Gray pulled her cat from a box next to her to show the world. "I had to make the little holes at the front so he can see where he was going, and another hole so I can feed him his din-dins. He looked ridiculous. None of the other cats will talk to him. I didn't make that woman force a hat on her cat," Joe shouted at the TV. "Why are they blaming me, Jenkins?" Joe turned to look at his chief advisor. "Well, I thought you had all the answers. There are hundreds of these stories up and down the country about people being forced to join in and have fun," Violetta continued. "Well, no more, I say. No more of being told that being silly is the new normal. That's why today I'm resigning from the government. I can't be a part of this nonsense anymore. I'm announcing the formation of a new organisation, one that's going to hold you to account, Prime Minister. Today, I'm announcing the birth of the Anti-Silliness League." Joe watched in amazement as Violetta was joined on the platform by angry-looking men and women of all ages. Okay, so we're going to stop there. We hope you enjoyed reading this part, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.